First of all, thank you for sticking this out. This has been a long day. I've heard of some of the conversations. It's really fantastic conversations, necessary conversations, the conversations we need to have. Because frankly, I don't think we're doing that great. We've been talking about cybersecurity ad nauseum for 20 years, and yet we're still, I think in the last 2 years, data breaches have increased 72% in the last 2 years. So we need to do something different. So these are important conversations. So appreciate that. As Travis, or maybe it wasn't Travis, the young lady, that certainly wasn't Travis. I'm not that bright, but I'm bright enough to know that she wasn't Travis. My name is Paul Selby. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the Department of Energy. Previous to that, I was with the IRS. I was the Deputy CISO for the IRS. I'm an active member of the United States Navy Reserve, and the most important thing you need to know about me is I'm probably the world's foremost leading expert in 80s hair metal. So if you really want to have a meaningful conversation, let's talk about that, and we can talk about the real who was better, David Lee or Sammy. That would probably be the most meaningful conversation. What I'm probably not going to do is give you guys new information technologically that you don't already know. We've got some really smart people in this room. So if you're expecting that, then like I said, you had 30 seconds. Your time is up now. I was told that the makeup of the audience, just out of curiosity, just a show of hands, how many people here work for the government? Okay. I was told that most everybody was going to be government employees. But for those of you who work for the government, if you don't work for the government, I don't mean to exclude you, but for those of you who work for the government, one of the things that happens to me all the time, because I'm still in the Navy Reserves, is I get to wear a uniform. And I get to go out and be in public, and people see me in a uniform. And it's almost overwhelming, the level of appreciation that people have when you have and how many people are veterans? Show of hands, how many are veterans? So you guys know this. When you go somewhere in a uniform, people are just profuse with their gratitude and things, and that's awesome. And I'm very grateful, and it's almost to the point of embarrassment because I don't actually do that much, either for the Department of Energy or the United States Navy. But what I do want to say is, for those of you that are civil servants, one of the things I wish the public knew is that what you do is every bit of importance and of every bit of service to our country as somebody in uniform. So just do me a favor, just take a moment, give everybody that works for the government a round of applause. Thank you very much. You guys wake up every morning and make a choice. Because for those of you who are retired from the government or who work in the private sector, you know that there's a tremendous amount of money being left on the table by somebody who chooses to get up and go to work for the government every day. But they do that because the mission is that important. Now, having said that, everybody in this room is here because we're all interested in cybersecurity. We're all interested in the defense of our country from a cyber aspect. So John F. Kennedy once famously said that anybody, and I'll paraphrase this because I'll butcher it if I try to get the exact quote, but anybody who is ever asked if they've done anything meaningful in their life can respond with pride that, yes, I've served in the United States Navy. Anybody that's working in defense of our country in the cyber arena can answer that same question with that same sense of pride. What you do matters. What we do in our day-to-day jobs matter. You make a difference. Nobody ever has to, that's sitting in this room today, has to wonder and worry about if you're making a difference. You truly are. So thank you and everybody. And here's the other thing. For those of you who are on the commercial side, industry side, the government's got real problems. I deal with them on a daily basis. We cannot solve them on our own. We need you. We need the public-private partnership. These problems are too intense. You guys are investing money, investing the dollars in research. We are as well, but we need to do this together. So I appreciate that, and I wanted to thank you for that. So the Department of Energy. A lot of you probably are familiar with some of it. The Department of Energy has recently got some good PR with the movie Oppenheimer, yay. That's our heritage. That's how the Department of Energy started, was the Manhattan Project. We have 37 field offices, 17 national laboratories, 4 power administrations, And that's the part that some people don't realize. The power administrations, we provide power to 37 states. 65 million US citizens the Department of Energy provides power for. So the Department of Energy is, when I took this job about, almost a year ago now, before I came on board, they said it's a little bit complex. I said, oh, do tell. They said, well, it's simultaneously a .gov, a .mil, a .ic, a .edu, and a .com. I'm like, yeah, all right, explain. And they did. I can tell you now after a year, it really is all those things. The Bonneville Power Administration, one of our power marketing associations, is completely self-funded. They don't get any money from the government. It's a government entity, government employees. They sell electricity. That's how they're funded. We are deeply embedded with the intel community. You come to our headquarters at Forrestal, you'll see the United States Navy well represented at Forrestal on the nuclear side. And anybody who's retired from Navy nukes usually comes to work at Department of Energy. And the .edu side, most of our national labs, I shouldn't say most, a lot of our national labs are embedded in universities, like the Stanford Linear Accelerator that's at Stanford Laboratories, at Berkeley, the Berkeley National Labs. These are entities embedded within universities that work hand in hand with the universities. So we are all of those things simultaneously. Now, what makes that interesting from a cyber perspective is my team has to protect it all. And when you're talking about some of the nation's most important secrets on the nuclear side and being responsible for nuclear weapons, that's in direct contrast with our open science mission. And literally the open science mission is, because I have heart attacks about this, wait, you're doing what with China? And you want them? And you're inviting the Russians to this meeting too? Yeah, that's the open science mission. And we have to do that. That's their charter. That's their mission. So we have this wide gambit of things that we have to protect on, and it's make my job, well, it's not boring. So let me tell you some of the coolest things I've seen since being the CISO at the Department of Energy. I mentioned SLAC, the Stanford Linear Accelerator. It's a 2-mile-long linear accelerator. Now, I can't tell you what they do there, but it's for particle physics, and they take stuff at one end of the accelerator, and they fling it down there, and they smash it into something they call quarks, and they do basic building blocks of physics. I can't understand it, but my God, there's some smart people. One of the beautiful things about being at the Department of Energy is I don't ever have to worry about being the smartest person in the room. That's not an issue. I got to go to the Hanford site. How many people have ever heard of the Hanford site? It's one of the, it's a major cleanup project now, but it's also home of the world's very first nuclear reactor. And I was floored when I got to walk into that building just with the scope and scale of it. I mean, it is absolutely huge, and the complexity of it. And to think, this is not somebody who, I'm somebody who struggles with getting furniture from IKEA with like something that tells me how to do it, and I end up with parts at the end like, geez, how did this happen? These guys built a nuclear reactor with no blueprints, they invented this. It's just phenomenal to see that and the scale of it. And then you walk in and you see where Dr. Fermi's office was and Dr. Oppenheimer's office was, and I get goosebumps now just thinking about it. I mean, this is some of the most groundbreaking stuff that's ever happened on our planet. Also at the Hanford site, for any of you people that are just nerds like I am, the United States has an agreement with Russia. Whenever we decommission a nuclear submarine, we have to bury the hull exposed so satellites can see it, so they can verify we've decommissioned that nuclear submarine. There's an area at Hanford where you drive by, and it's just a whole bunch of nuclear submarines sticking out of the ground, the hulls of them. You're like, well, that's just kind of bizarre. But they're there and visible, so Russian satellites can go verify that we've decommissioned it. So it's kind of cool. The National Ignition Facility. This is at Lawrence Livermore National Labs. So they last year, was it last year? It was 2 years ago, they did what was considered one of the most important science breakthroughs of the 21st century. They completed what was called let me make sure I get this right, fusion. they've completed, they got the first ever successful test of confusion at the ignition facility. So that's pretty cool. How many people have been to Forrestal, our headquarters at Forrestal building? Have you seen the blue Selby Cobra sitting in the lobby? There's a blue Selby Cobra sitting in the lobby. I've got pictures of it on my phone. Stop me afterwards and I'll show you the pictures of it. What's interesting about that blue Selby Cobra is it's entirely 3D printed at one of our labs. And it works. It's functional. And you cannot tell that from any other Selby Cobra, so that's pretty cool. So 7 of the national labs have cybersecurity labs embedded in them, and they are doing some of the most cutting-edge research on protecting the energy grid that's going on anywhere in the world today. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of background, if you're not familiar with the Department of Energy, what the Department of Energy was. And I was told I have 25 minutes. I also told them that there's no chance I would stop talking in 25 minutes. There's no problem getting Selby to talk. It's getting Selby to stop talking that's generally the issue. So they asked me to come and talk about, the specific question they asked is, what is the most critical cybersecurity risk facing the government agencies today? And you guys have been talking about all of the technological issues today. And we can talk more about those. I don't know that there's really anything more I can add. I mean, artificial intelligence is huge, right? I mean, it's a game-changing thing. It's not new. I don't know if my friend Amy is in the room. Is Amy in the room? Okay, she's not. She told me that if I would get, she is? Oh, no, I'm talking about Amy Hamilton. Sorry, different Amy. Crazy, there's more than one Amy in the world. So now that whole joke is just gone because she challenged me to, she said, you can't tie David Hasselhoff into this talk. So I can, because Knight Rider was actually the original artificial intelligence, for those of you who remember that show in the 80s, the Knight Rider, the kit. All right, never mind. So I did tie it in there. Somebody can tell her I did tie this into it. But I tell you, so I think the most critical thing that we're facing from a cybersecurity perspective in the US government is a lack of funding. That, to me, is the biggest issue, and the unfunded mandates are killing us. And I don't think that's intentional, right? I don't think there's somebody sitting there with a pot of money saying, nah, we're not going to give it on that, we're going to go to Tahiti instead, right? I mean, I think it's a real problem. I think it's a real crisis. I mean, the deficit continues to increase, but yet we have these cybersecurity needs that are just tremendously important. So to me, that's one of the biggest issues we face is not having the money to do what we need to do. I also think, and today, it's weird because it wasn't planned this way, but today, you know what today's birthday is today? Executive Order 14028, 3 years ago today. So it's happy birthday, 14028, which I happen to think is a fantastic executive order. And I think it's moving us in the right direction. And I think it's driving everybody mad. And here's one of the problems, right? Because it's exacerbating an issue that we have, is when that came out, all of the government agencies said, you will comply. Again, unfunded mandate, but you will comply. We're all struggling to figure it out. I don't have the resources to do it. I don't have the expertise to do it. I'm going to come to industry. You guys are going to help me. You guys are going to save me. Guess what? Every government agency is going to the same pool of resources trying to get the same thing. We have a severe shortage of cyber talent. The cyber people we have are fantastic, both industry and in government. I mean, it is just amazing. Almost every meeting I walk out of, I'm like, man, I need 10 more of them, and we'd solve the problems, right? You guys are fantastic. There's just not enough of us, and we're all trying to solve the same problem. So we're definitely resource constrained from a budgetary standpoint and from a manpower standpoint. The other thing I think is a real problem, and probably the one that is most frustrating to me, and it's not a technology problem, but it's the complete lack of cyber hygiene. So the number one attack vector has been phishing for years and years and years, right? So a little aside, because I'm going to run out of time and I won't get to tell you all these cool things. Traditionally, 80 to 85% of attacks have been phishing email-based attacks. Last year, we saw that jump to 92%. That was kind of interesting. Guess what happened at the end of 2022 that may have caused the email-based phishing attacks to increase that dramatically? ChatGPT. So that was introduced in November, and then we saw phishing-based emails increase over the next year. So the age-old question, will artificial intelligence be used for good or evil? Yes, absolutely. And we're seeing that come to fruition already. But guess what the number 2 attack vector is? Anybody? A great answer, not correct, but great. I mean, I feel bad now. I don't like publicly shaming anybody. I'll just say it because I don't want anyone. It's unpatched software. How is that possible? How is that possible? In 2024, we're still dealing with the number 2 attack vector being unpatched software. We're concerned about what the next vector or the next technology that's going to be causing waves throughout cybersecurity. We need to get to the basics. We know how to keep things secure. We need to do that. I mean, that's not a hard thing to do, is to patch the software. The other thing that blew my mind, TikTok. There is a government-wide ban on TikTok. Yay. Yay, Congress. Fantastic, great work. This is a company, a state-owned company by a country that has publicly said that we're their enemy. They refer to us as the great enemy. At least we're great. I mean, we're not like some fly-by-night enemy, we're a great enemy. And this is a state-sponsored software program that mines data. And yet, in the US government, I had people telling me that we had no right to ban TikTok, that they needed TikTok. Like, this is crazy to me. Basics. These are the basic things. We need to do these things. One of the other pieces of information that I just thought I'd share with you, guess how long it takes to detect and to recover, to detect and contain and recover from a data breach? Anybody got a guess on how long that would take? In today's day and age, with as much focus as we have on cybersecurity, almost a year. 277 days on average is what it takes to discover a data breach and contain it. That's really, it's not working. What we're doing is not working. So I'm going to put this down for a second because I just want to talk. We have been screaming and talking about cybersecurity for as long. I mean, I'm almost 60 years old. I know, I don't look almost 60. I'm very immature for my age. But we've been talking about this for a long time. We in this room are not the problem. Actually, we in this room are the problem. We're not communicating in an effective manner that's changing behavior to our constituents. We're the ones who are responsible for fixing it, monitoring it, maintaining it, and making sure it works okay and getting it back online. We're not the ones that are causing the breaches. What are we doing wrong? How do we change our messaging? Because what we're doing ain't working. So one of the things that concerns me is that we're at a point now with cyber saturation. Remember after 9/11 when Department of Homeland Security was stood up and almost immediately one of the first things they did is said, we're at an elevated risk, we're at orange. And we're like, oh my God, we're at orange, and we all were hyper-vigilant. We stayed at orange for about 11 years. After about 4 or 5 years, nobody knew what being at orange meant anymore. Are we there with cybersecurity? Are we just like sirens screaming like, hey, you got to be cyber aware, you got to be cyber aware, you got to be cyber aware? Does that have any meaning to anybody? Because if not, we need to change our messaging. Effective communication is not them making sure that they understand what we're saying. Effective communication is making sure that they understand what we're saying. It's our responsibility. So we got to do something different. I don't have the answer, so if anybody's got an answer to that one, but that's one of the things that keeps me up at night. That's one of the things I fear. I think I've got 12 minutes left, so that's cool. So that's one of the biggest things I would say is we're not communicating in a meaningful way. So the other things, the technology stuff, we talked about AI. So I think AI is going to be incredibly helpful in a lot of ways. And there's 3 areas that I think that I try to get my team to focus on for AI. Is one, how do we defend against AI when it's used against us? That's a real problem. You heard me talk about the phishing email earlier. The ways attackers can use it is just, it's scary. So we have to figure that out. Then we have to figure out, when we use AI, how do we make sure it's safe? We have, at the DOE, we've not let anybody use ChatGPT. We're not sure yet. I'm a very conservative person. I like to make sure that something's going to be safe before we just say, go ahead and use it. And I think that's part of the basic cyber hygiene. Where's the software manufactured? Does it have MFA? Where's the data coming from? All that kind of stuff. And then there's the whole issue with data around AI, right? I mean, so everyone familiar with the Lion data set, the issue that happened about 4 or 5 months ago with the Lion data set? So the Lion data set, so one of the things that is brilliant about the Department of Energy, and another reason I just absolutely love working there, I said living there, that may have been a Freudian slip. But if I say that out loud, they might start charging me rent. But one of the reasons I love working there is the vast array of missions that we have. One of the things we have is the fastest supercomputer in the world, and 3 of the top 10 fastest supercomputers in the world. So we're able to do tremendous things with artificial intelligence. The learning data sets that you use in artificial intelligence are gathered from, you get them from different universities, different places that provide data sets. The Lion data set was provided by, I think it was the Stanford, I don't think it was Stanford University, but it was one of the organizations out in California. I'd have to get the exact name of it. But it was from a reputable place. Everybody was using it. It's not an issue. There was no issue with where you got your data set from. It was a legit source for data sets for learning about artificial intelligence. Here's the problem. An attacker had gotten a hold of it and embedded child pornography into the data set. So then we had all of these computers that were trying to learn from this Lion data set that had all of a sudden embedded with child pornography. That's a concern. That's an issue. I mean, we're going to be relying on artificial intelligence, and yet we don't have a guaranteed way to make sure that there's no data poisoning going on. I mean, so we need to be cautious as we get into this. So we need to make sure that we have safe, responsible use of artificial intelligence. Now, the other part of it, the third area that I like to focus on, is using AI to enhance cybersecurity. And this is the good part of it, right? So there's a tremendous shortage of talent, and we talked about that already, about the tremendous shortage of talent. I think artificial intelligence can help. I think artificial intelligence can help us a tremendous amount. When I look at all the data my cyber analysts have to go through, to be able to use artificial intelligence to go through that and to be able to pinpoint threats quicker, to be able to pinpoint attacks quicker, that is going to help bridge that gap. Now, I am not yet, and I don't know that I'll get there in my lifetime, a fan of strictly artificial intelligence. And to be clear, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're really not talking about general artificial intelligence right now, not generative artificial intelligence, but general artificial intelligence. What we're really talking about is advanced machine learning. So we're not at the space yet where we actually have artificial intelligence. But what that does makes me feel a little bit better is we still need the humans in the loop. So when I was in grad school, we did a study on the advanced use of artificial intelligence in a battlefield scenario. And I'm going to put this down again. So there was 2 control groups. One was experienced battlefield commanders, 04, 05 level, that because of our 20 years of experience of being at war, we have a lot of people with that kind of experience. The other was a pure artificial intelligence simulated response. And they put battlefield scenarios through both groups. And what we learned was on the artificial intelligence side, the decisions were made lightning quick. crunched the data, said, this is what we need to do, this is the course of action, boom, they went. And the problem is when they made a mistake, it was catastrophic. And I don't mean like, oh, we ran out of gas. Tremendous loss of life in the scenarios. Hugely catastrophic. In the other control group with the battlefield commanders, very rarely did they make a mistake, if ever. They were just unbelievably good at what they did, and that makes you feel really good about our military. The problem was they were incredibly slow. Couldn't make the decisions quick enough. Caused tremendous problems in the battlefield and ended up with a similarly catastrophic results. Their decisions were right. They couldn't make it happen together. What we found is when we took those two pieces together and we combined the artificial intelligence and we overlined the battlefield commanders with that, it was no longer a 1 + 1 = 2. It was a 1 + 1 = 10. The level of efficiency was increased that dramatically. We can do that with cyber. We can take artificial intelligence, deploy it with the people we have in place, and have that kind of productivity. That's my dream, and I think we can do it. And I think we're close to being able to do that. We're working with a lot of different companies at Energy that bring that kind of solutions to the table. Feel free to stop me if anybody has any questions or anybody wants to talk about any of this stuff any further. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going here. So that's artificial intelligence. One of the biggest, this is one of my favorite artificial intelligence stories, only because it horrifies the crap out of me. Jennifer DiStefano. Raise your hand if you've heard of Jennifer DiStefano. Really? Nobody? So Jennifer DiStefano lived how many people have kids? Raise your hand if you have kids. I'm going to get audience interaction if it kills me. How many people have kids? Okay, great. Jennifer DiStefano is a mom sitting at home in New Jersey. And she gets a phone call, and it's her daughter. And her daughter is screaming hysterically, and I get choked up when I say this because I have two daughters, 10 and 12 years old. My favorite job in the world is being a husband and father. But Jennifer gets this call from her daughter and says, Mommy, I'm in trouble. This man is hurting me. I need your help. And Jennifer DiStefano, a guy comes on the phone and says, I've got your daughter. I'm going to kill her unless you give me $1 million. Well, the problem was it was completely fake, artificial intelligence. So the deep fake capability of artificial intelligence and what's going on now, that's one of the most horrifying things. So I've left you with that feel-good story. Let's move on to the next topic. Raise your hand if anybody here is a quantum computing expert. Anybody? Oh, thank God. So now I can talk about it, because if you guys were experts, I'd be in trouble. Post-quantum computing, everyone talks about that as like it's a risk that's 10 years down the road. Let me tell you why it's not. So there's a phrase that's becoming very popular called hack now, crack later. And our adversaries use it to great effect. And what they're doing is they're stealing our data, encrypted or not, and if they can't decrypt it because they don't have quantum computing yet, they're just storing it. And they're going to crack it once quantum computing is available. Because quantum computing renders almost every cryptographic algorithm we have useless. So at one time, for the original cryptographic algorithms, to be effective, they combined, God, some people are brilliant with math. I am not. Some people are. They've determined that if you took every computer in the world, harness them together, and use them to break the algorithms that were in use at the time, it would take 16 billion years to break the current algorithms. Quantum computing has reduced that to hours. It's pretty scary. Now the only exception to that, because if you know any quantum computing experts, they'll tell you there's a couple of exceptions. AES 128 and AES 256 are quantum resistant. Problem is that's not what we use for data in transit. That's not what we use on our PIV cards. It's not what we use for identity and access management. There's a lot of things that we're not using AES 128 and 256 for. So we've got a real problem. And it's not a 10-year from now problem. It's a today problem, because people are intercepting our data now, and they're going to store it and use it later. So we've got real problems that we need to solve with that. Now here's another thing that's very alarming. In 2022, there was $30 billion globally invested in quantum computing. $30 billion. The United States invested $1 billion. $15 billion, half of the money, was invested by China. Scared yet? So somebody asked me once, what keeps you up at night, Paul? Everything. I mean, seriously, I mean, if you're not scared, you're not paying attention. We've got serious problems, and we need to work on them together. So one of the talks earlier, I heard somebody talking about the sector risk management agencies. So let me talk about that for a minute too, because there's 16 sector risk management agencies. We are one of them. We're responsible for the energy grid. There's great work being done on this. The national laboratories really are, they are just national gems. It is, when I walk into those rooms, there's, I think, right now we have 17 Nobel laureates as part of our history. Some of the most groundbreaking work. And some of that focus and some of that intelligence is being focused specifically on how to solve the cybersecurity issues in our energy grid. Here's the problem. Our energy grid hasn't changed a whole lot. And we have a tremendous amount of operational technology in our energy grid. So we need to figure out how we can apply the basic cyber hygiene to the operational technology or come up with other mitigating factors. If any of you have a brilliant solution you're sitting on, let's schedule a meeting, let's talk. But these are incredibly huge problems that we need to solve. Now, they're doing great things. The government is doing great things about it, right? So the current administration, I think, has done some things that I really applaud. The CIRCIA Act of 2022. The critical, I'll butcher it, the Critical Infrastructure Reporting Act. Essentially, it's requirements for anything that happens in a critical industry. They have to report that they have to report it to CISO. I think that's, is it the best answer? Is it the only answer? I don't know, but it's a step in the right direction, right? I mean, we need to do something. We need to figure out what's going to work. There was a meeting on the Hill recently specifically about that, and there was some discussion that right now, all of those reports for CIRCIA get to go directly to CISA. They're saying, well, maybe we should use the sector risk management agencies and make that the entry point. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. But we need to have the discussions. These discussions are important because this is where the answers are going to come from. I certainly don't have all the answers. Again, unless you're talking about, wanting to know if David Lee Roth was a better frontman than Sammy Hagar. He wasn't, but that's neither here nor there. The critical infrastructure is incredibly important, and if you want to know how important, there was a meeting 2 weeks ago on the House about the United Healthcare attack. Not the energy sector, but certainly a critical infrastructure, right? The healthcare industry. And they came away with 5 recommendations. I think they're incredible. I think they're on the right track. So this is, I have been accused of being an eternal optimist, and I am. I don't think where we're at because of a lack of desire. I have not met anybody in all the years I've been doing this, and I've been doing this for a little bit. Nobody has said, that makes no sense. This cyber stuff is stupid. We're not going to do that. I've not gotten the Heisman. The questions are usually, I don't understand. I don't know how to do this. I'm scared. Help me. How do we do this? Or I don't have the money to do this, but I need to know how to do this, right? Nobody is saying we're not going to do it. And I believe that's true of Congress as well. I think that they are laser focused on this. And I think that they are trying to do the best they can to help us. And I love the recommendations that the House committee gave us. So I'll tell you what they were. One of the things they said, their first recommendation is to perform an infrastructure mapping and risk assessment. That's a great idea. For every one of the 16 sector risk management agencies, we need to do that. We need to figure out where our risks are. What are our vulnerabilities? How do we know what to protect if we don't know where our vulnerabilities are? Sounds like a basic and really good step to me. They said we should hold third-party product and service providers and business associates to a higher standard. And what they meant by that is secure by design. How many people are familiar with that phrase? Secure by design. How many people think we're doing that? We're not, right? I mean, we're not, again, this is the conversations we need to have. We know these things, but we're not doing it. In my own agency, I can't tell you how many meetings I've been invited to, literally at the 11th hour saying, hey, we're getting ready to launch this product, or we're getting ready to launch this application, or we're getting ready to introduce this new service. What is it? Well, it's this, this, this. Well, does it have multi-factor authentication? Oh, no, we didn't think about that. Well, do you have logging? Well, no, we didn't do that. Okay, so we're not doing the things we say we know we need to do. That holding people accountable, I think, is an important step. It's an idea by Congress. I think that's a really good thing. I think it's a really good idea. They suggested that we invest in a government/industry rapid response capability. I think that's brilliant. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really good idea, to have a government-industry rapid response capability. The last thing they recommended was investing in a cyber safety net for the nation's underserved providers. Let me tell you why I think that's important. This number is going up and down. I don't know how long I think I can talk for like another week, because I don't know what maybe they're just keep giving me more time. He's not going to shut up, so we're just let him keep talking. So the president's national cybersecurity plan, and I think again, being the eternal optimist, I applaud this. They talked about taking responsibility for cybersecurity and putting it in the hands of the people most capable of providing cybersecurity. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I mean, when you talk about small and medium businesses, mom and pop organizations, homeowners, they're not capable. I mean, we in this room are in the inner circle. We know how good our adversaries are. And make no mistake, our adversaries are fantastic at what they do. And they're changing their IoTs constantly. We're seeing things now on the energy grid we've never seen before. We're seeing, the IoTs and their tactics. It's really scary. A lot of it is, for those of you who want to go meet in a room with no windows, we can talk about it, but they're really good at what they do. It makes no sense to try to make somebody who has no experience, no budget, no chance of standing up to that kind of threat, So let's put it in the hands of the people who can do that. Who's that? People like us, people in this room, government agencies, private sector agencies. We have a better chance of meeting that need. To me, that's what that recommendation is, when they talk about the underserved providers. So one of the things, I was in Poland recently meeting with, and this is a good sign, it means that I'm through my notes. So I was in Poland recently, and we were talking with the Polish energy suppliers about some of their biggest concerns. And it was solar. And I thought, that's interesting. Why is solar a concern? And then it dawned on me. They're huge into solar. They have tens of thousands of different homes that are now part of the solar grid. Guess what every one of those homes represents from a cybersecurity perspective? A point of entry into the grid. They're not thinking those. Guarantee the homeowner's not thinking about that. They're thinking about what's on TV tonight, what am I cooking the kids for dinner? They're not concerned about whether they have MFA or whether there's logging or any kind of cyber hygiene or cyber capabilities to that point of entry into the grid. Now, some people will say, well, Paul, you're paranoid, that kind of stuff will never happen. How are you going to get from somebody's home into any kind of national security thing or anything that's going to cause grave harm to the United States? Paul, you're paranoid. I am, but I'm also very familiar with what happened at Target. Anybody familiar with the Target exploit? How did that start? The HVAC vendor had a vulnerability. The attacker got into the HVAC system and sat there and continued to escalate privileges until they got to the point of sale system and caused one of the largest breaches that we've had in the United States. So yeah, is it real? Scary, really, really scary. So, but I don't mean to be all doom and gloom. There is again, I'm an eternal optimist. I think the amount of attention that we're providing to the American public is really heartening to me. Again, I'm not saying we're doing it right, because I think if we're talking this much and things aren't changing, then we need to really think about how we're communicating and what message we're putting out. So we need to change. We need to change the way we're telling people to do this. We do. How many people in their organization do phishing simulations? Phishing simulations. How many people still, month after month, quarter after quarter, year after year, end up with 15 to 16% of their users click? So what do we do? How do we change that up? But we're talking about it now. We're focused on this. Congress has had, I think, just on artificial intelligence alone, I think in the last 6 months there's been over it's something crazy. If anybody knows that, but I think it's like 230 different hearings on artificial intelligence alone. We're focused on it. We're talking about it. We're heading in the right direction. The fact that you guys would take time out of your day to sit here all day and focus on cybersecurity, to me, is encouraging. And I really appreciate and am very grateful that I have a great amount of respect for our adversaries. I think China has some incredible offensive cyber capabilities. Russia has some incredibly good cyber offensive capabilities. We're better. You're better. We collectively are better. We need to be more vigilant. We need to do more. We need to figure out how we can stay one step ahead of them. The fact that you're all sitting here listening to me drone on for now, I'm out of time. They finally got it to 0. Tells me that we're doing the right thing. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come here and talk to you. If there's anything I can do to be helpful, I need your help. The Department of Energy needs your help. If you're in the private sector and you have an answer, come talk to me. If you're interested in selling me something, I don't have time. If you're interested in helping me solve the problem, let's partner. Let's get together. Let's work. Let's solve this. We're better. Collectively, we're better. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.